Finally, 6 months on the market, we have our first true next-gen experience. What's up guys, Veteran Gamer here, and today's review is Returnal, the exclusive for PlayStation 5. With the console being on the market for 6 months now, and if you manage to get your hands on it, a lot of people have been clamoring for that true next-gen experience, a game that will help set the bar for what a next-gen game would be. And that game is Returnal. Developed by Housemarque, Returnal is the first game built for the ground up for the PlayStation 5. Not a remaster like Demon's Souls, that was a PS3 game originally, a game built from scratch for the PlayStation 5. And the first thing that Returnal will do to any player that plays it is that it will blow you away. It will give you a very strong first impression, provided you have certain things enabled on your console. And what I mean by that is I'm talking about the haptic feedback, the adaptive triggers, and if you're using a headset, 3D audio. Because this game embodies everything that Sony advertised when it came to a user experience for the PlayStation 5. Right from the opening cutscene, the 3D audio is put right to good use. As your ship flies by left to right, the audio goes left to right. The vibration of your engines as it flies left to right. The controller will vibrate left to right. When you start the game and it's raining, every drop that hits the ground will vibrate your controller accordingly. Everything about the haptic feedback, the way the triggers are utilized, as opposed to games like Call of Duty and Control, where the haptic feedback or adaptive triggers, if you will, the R2 button is what's used with tension. In Returnal, it's the L2 button, where you go halfway and the tension will kick in and allow you to know that you're ADS. And then if you break that threshold and push all the way down, you will get your alt fire. Now don't get me wrong, when I first did it, it took some getting used to. It was a little weird. But once you get a feel for how it works, it's a great system and a great way to implement adaptive triggers. I mean, it is clearly distinct of when you should or shouldn't push all the way down. Like, it gives you a clear line of this is where the ADS is, this is where the secondary fire is, and it works really well. The vibration throughout the controller, like I have my settings dialed all the way up, and the vibration in this game is absolutely incredible. Whether it's raindrops, gunfire, cutscenes, the engine, everything about it is utilized. On top of this, this game features 0 load times. Once the game boots up, it takes about 4 seconds. That's it. You never see a load screen at all in this game. And again, everything that Sony advertised is here. The one thing, when I say it embodies a next-gen experience, if you take all these features away, what you have on display is a good third-person action game, and it won't give you a next-gen feel. Nothing about it from a performance standpoint feels next-gen. The game runs 60 frames per second. It has, I believe it's something like 1080p rendered, but it has some nifty upscaling technique to make it look crisp and clean in 4K. These things, they don't make it feel next-gen. It will just feel like a good action game. What makes it feel next-gen is the experience, the user experience that you get from using the DualSense controller and the 3D audio. And this game embodies what Sony was advertising, and it gets me even more excited for what other first-party studios do with the hardware. With also that being said, this is also a narrative-driven roguelite kind of game, and the acting on display as well as the story, they're good. It's really, really good, especially from Housemarque. Housemarque is not known for having a lot of cutscenes or narrative. It's usually more of an arcade-style shooter, and thankfully, the gameplay tropes that Housemarque has perfected over the years is still here. Right from when you play this game and it throws you to the wind, you get that Housemarque feel. You know this is a Housemarque game just by how tight the controls are and how the shooting really feels. The gameplay is really, really tight. They do throw all systems at you like right away, and it can be overwhelming. But it doesn't take very long to get into the scheme of things. Like I said, the trickiest part is probably getting used to the adaptive triggers and how the L2 button works in this game. However, if it really is bothersome, you can always just turn it off and make it easier for yourself. On top of all of this, one of the best parts about Returnal is the boss battles. As always, you know, Housemarque nails combat down, and their boss fights are absolutely fantastic in this game. That being said, as also being a Housemarque title that goes in the old school arcade formula, Returnal is not easy. This is a hard game. I would even argue that this game is harder than the Souls series. And I'm a Souls fan. I've played the other Souls games, and this game has frustrated me more than those games. But I'll get to those frustrations very shortly. On top of that, this game is also, as mentioned, a roguelite. So games very similar to that of Dead Cells and Hades, where the idea behind it is you're supposed to complete a run front to back in one sitting. And it does this in probably the most okayest fashion I could ever see. When I say okay, as in, it's probably the game's biggest failing is that it's a roguelite. As a third-person action game that should have been narrative-driven, it's great. But as a roguelite, there are elements of it that fail miserably. And the big elephant in the room, and what makes this game more frustrating than a Souls game, is that a run in Returnal can last 90 minutes. Let that sink in. 90 minutes, no save points. This to me is a big oversight and a big flaw, and I don't know what the devs were thinking. I know people are going to say like, oh, but that's how roguelites are. They're not supposed to save. Yeah, really? Well, tell that to Hades. Because I'm playing through Hades, and a complete run in Hades takes less than 40 minutes. And guess what? You can save and quit. You can save and quit and go do something else for whatever reason that is. In Returnal, you can't do that. What further compounds this issue is in Hades, if you play for 20 minutes and die, to jump back into another run is quick because you can play for another 20 minutes and be like, oh, I gotta go do something. Let me just save and quit and go do that something else and come back, and guess what? I'm on the third world still. In Returnal, because the runs are 90 minutes or so in length, you can literally play the game for 40 minutes, die once, and then you're like, well, I don't want to play another run because I can't save in the middle of it. It's ridiculous. Part of the fun of a roguelite is dying and jumping right back in. And unfortunately, in Returnal, it's just not palatable to do that for most players. For me, I could. My schedule allowed me to do it, so it wasn't an issue for me personally. But when I think of the vast majority of gamers out there, this is a problem. People have other things to do, or friends that they may ask them to play with them, or whatever the case may be. The fact that you can't save and quit and have the game sit there and say, okay, you're on World 2, you'll save and quit, and you'll be right at the beginning at World 2, and you have to go through that world. But once you boot up that save, it deletes, so if you die, well, guess what? You do have to start over. None of this impacts the roguelite experience. So to me, this is the biggest single-handed flaw with Returnal, is the fact that you can't save and quit the game in the middle of a run. Hades allows you to do it, Dead Cells allows you to do it. Why they didn't do this with this, I don't get it. It's a major oversight in my opinion. And I would sit here and say it flat out that if you are a casual gamer, if you're the type of gamer that only can game an hour a day for whatever reason that may be, this game is not for you. I'm telling you right now, in its current state, it's not for you. The only positive I can say about this system is that Housemarque has come out and said that they are aware of the community complaints and that they are listening. Whether or not they implement a save feature or do something about it is yet to be determined. But in its current state, yeah, if you're a casual gamer, like, I'm sorry, this game's not for you. You'll never be able to finish a run. My first completion took me about an hour and 45 front to back. And it's ridiculous. Meanwhile, as opposed to Hades, the same game that people sit there and say, hey, you know, it's one of the best roguelites of them all, which in my opinion it is. Guess what? I completed my first run in 36 minutes, my second run in 28 minutes. So, and that has a save feature. So that whole, oh, roguelite shouldn't have a save feature. Bullshit. There's no reason why they can't have it. There's no reason why Returnal can't have it. It is a big miss in my opinion. Aside from that, another part of the problem with this game, as opposed to a game like Hades, is that there's no real builds. There is no way to build your character a certain way. The permanent upgrades that you get run to run are minute in comparison to a game like Hades. It's actually at times borderline embarrassing because there's way too much RNG that impacts a run. I've had runs end prematurely because I've gotten nothing but garbage drops. And as opposed to a game like Hades, Hades allows multiple ways to permanently level up your character. There are different weapons to choose from that you choose at the beginning of your run that you carry all the way through. It's not random. You have upgrades, a list of upgrades that you permanently choose. In Returnal, this is what's lacking. A lot of your success of a run, yes, it's going to determine on your skill, but it's also luck. Whether or not the RNG gods are on your side. When I completed it, I kept getting health increases, so I had almost double the health when I completed it. Well, guess what? Not everybody's going to get drops like that. And the fact that so much of your success hinders on RNG, it's a problem. The only other issue that I personally ran into was an audio glitch where I was battling a boss, and for some reason, the audio kept cutting in and out. I don't know why this is. It only happened with the one boss. So I don't know if it's specific to the boss or if it's just happened to happen that way. That was the only glitch I ever had. I do know that other people have had crashes, which again, game crashing with no save feature in a roguelite, well, that's a real kick in the nuts, and it's going to demotivate anybody from playing your game. All in all, what Returnal gets right is the action, the story, the lore, the next-gen experience. I will not shake anything away from these things that Returnal does shine in. But where it flounders is the whole roguelite experience. If they had taken this game and basically made it a third-person action game that's narrative-driven, it would have fared better than as a roguelite. Because in its current state, the only way this game can improve as a roguelite is if they add that save feature. To me, that's probably the biggest detriment to this game in its current state. And to me, as a true first next-gen experience, it's good, but it's flawed. And quite frankly, Returnal is, I guess, a good start to what is a new generation of consoles with a new generation of games. And we're going to have to wait and see to see how this plays out. Personally, I'm giving Returnal on PlayStation 5 a 7 out of 10. And we'll see where the future holds for the next game. I hope to see you guys next time. This is Veteran Gamer checking out.